It's time for the Ruffin Wrestling Show. Here's your host, Michael Ruffin.
You're soft, you're sloppy. They calling me Poppy.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Ruffin Wrestling Show. My name is Michael Ruffin and I am your host. Hope you guys are having a great Monday. We are here to talk about last night's pay-per-view, WWE Payback, which I was up very late last night because I watched Payback, then I watched Game of Thrones, and then I watched Camp WWE on demand real quick. I thought that show was fantastic. I don't know if it's going to find an audience. It is rated TVMA, so hopefully parents have put the parental controls on their child's WWE network, or actually they actually tell you at the beginning how you can do it. So because this is definitely not for kids. If you've seen any of the commercials with the bleeped out cuss words and bleeped out animated fingers and everything else, it's uncensored as a show. So actually hearing Vince McMahon say like words like shit and asshole were quite funny because, I imagine these are words that Vince says all the time, and of course he can't say them on TV because, PG era. But anyway, Camp WWE, I recommend it. I thought it was funny. I'll stick around and see what happens with it. It's not as good as Edge and Christian, but I'll stick around and see what they do. I think it has a lot of great potential. A lot of great possibilities could come out of that. But we're not here to talk about Camp WWE. We're here to talk about Payback. Overall, I thought Payback was a very good show, actually. I thought it was all right. Normally, Payback is more of a throwaway show. It's not the best of pay-per-views. You're just coming out of WrestleMania. Sometimes you get some feuds that carry over from WrestleMania, like we did with Ryback and Kalisto, and then sometimes you get new ones, which were pretty much the whole card, were all new feuds that have started since WrestleMania, or were starting kind of right before, like in the week before WrestleMania. So we had a lot of new stuff here, and one kind of held over from WrestleMania in Ryback and Kalisto. So let's talk about the matches one by one. Just go down the card here. Starting with the pre-show, they bumped Dolph Ziggler and Baron Corbin to the pre-show. Now, I don't know why. I don't know if it was to give things on the regular show more time, if it was to maybe try and get people to subscribe. I don't know why they bumped this match to the pre-show, but it is what it is. It was a great match. They've given Baron Corbin some new ring gear, which is interesting. I wasn't the biggest fan of it because I always felt like his whole thing was the biker thing, like the lone wolf, like biker gang type thing, and now he's wearing like khakis. Well, not khakis. It's essentially the same pants. They're just like a tan color. So it kind of looked like the pants that a biker would wear to like church on Sunday, I guess. I don't know. But it was a great match. A lot of back and forth. Ziggler got, I think he hit him with a famouser. Baron Corbin got a lot of great offense. At one point, I think they were actually you thought it might end in another count out because they were outside just beating each other down. But Dolph Ziggler manages to get out of this one with a roll-up. So a roll-up, a good safe finish. It kind of makes Dolph look like he kind of squeaked out. It doesn't make Baron Corbin look like he really got beat when he did. It looks like Dolph just kind of squeaked one out on him. So I expect that this match will probably carry over to Extreme Rules, as I think a lot of these matches are going to do. I think a lot of these matches are going to carry over to Extreme Rules. And in this case, if we get an Extreme Rules match between Dolph Ziggler and Baron Corbin, I think we all need to start saying a little prayer for Dolph Ziggler, because I think he's going to get killed. Because we know how Dolph is in those kinds of matches. Overall, I give it a 3.5 out of 5. on that one. I thought it was, it was good. It continues the feud, which they obviously want to do. It made Baron Corbin look, it made him look pretty good despite the loss. And you also didn't really do any damage to Dolph, who is a fan favorite and kind of the king of the mid card. Moving on, we had Kalisto versus Ryback for the United States Championship. Like I said, this was the only rematch from WrestleMania 32. Kalisto and Ryback, again, found themselves wrestling for the United States Championship and doing it on the kickoff show. The result was pretty much the same as last time, although I felt this match was a lot better. Kalisto managed really to survive everything Ryback dished out at him, and won with the Salida del Sol, and got a clean pinfall victory. There was a scary spot where Kalisto, I believe, went for his corkscrew crossbody out. He went for it on the outside, and I don't think he got enough under him. He didn't get enough air off the rope, and Ryback actually had to essentially rush over to a new spot to catch him, because it would have been bad. If Kalisto had come down, he probably would have just hit his head right on the apron, and that's it, lights out Kalisto, which sadly is a great segue into our first match of the main card, the number one contenders tag team title match between the Vaudevillains and Enzo Amore and Big Cass. The match really only went on for a few minutes, probably 5, maybe 6 minutes. And Simon Gotch, it looked like he went to throw Enzo out of the ring, and there wasn't enough room for Enzo to make the jump over, so he went to slide under the rope. And when he did, his head hit the second rope, and his arm got caught over the bottom rope, which caused his body to not slide under the rope. It caused it to slam back into the apron. So Enzo not only gets whiplash off the second rope, the bottom rope throws him down and smashes his head into the apron, and from what I could tell, knocked him out cold. I mean, knocked him out completely. He went dead to the floor, limp. I mean, you actually saw his eyes roll back in his head, and he went down on the floor hard. And they immediately jumped out. The ref was checking on him. The ref called for the X. The doctor comes over and starts checking on Enzo. That's how you know there's actually been a legitimate injury in a match. If I can never remember his name, Dr. Steven something. It's the guy that CM Punk is suing it's the guy he's suing CM Punk because CM Punk, of course, said on the Colt Cabana podcast that he wouldn't cut out his staph infection and all this stuff. So he said that he's a terrible doctor and that he doesn't actually check anybody and all this stuff. He just asks you if you have a concussion, and if you say you're fine, he'll let you work and all this stuff. So if anything, Payback showed us that is not true, because or at least it's not true. If it was true ever, it's definitely not true anymore, because if you see him actually checking on the superstar, there's been an injury. Something has happened. If you see somebody from the medical staff, meaning the black pants and black polo, that you've never seen before, it might be a work. So the doc is checking on him, and like I said, immediately they turned the camera away to the commentators, and the commentators gave us the spiel about how we hope this never happens, but that this things do happen. These guys do work safe, do this as safely as they can, but sometimes things do happen. And during this, they were strapping Enzo Amore to a stretcher and were rolling him out of the arena. From what I understand, he did not give a thumbs up in the arena because he was out cold, and they rushed him to a hospital. We got word later that he was able to speak and be able to move. And eventually they did post a picture of him being released from the hospital, and he looked fine. Diagnosis is that he has a concussion. So, of course, that means he will be out of work. He'll be out of work for at least 30 days before he can be tested for a concussion protocol. And that means we have 30 days of no Enzo and Cass, at least in the ring. Maybe Enzo can be cleared to talk. I don't know. Paige was doing stuff when she had a concussion. She was still doing some non-wrestling roles. So maybe we'll see some big Cass singles with Enzo as a manager, and Enzo not really doing anything in the ring. I guess it really depends on how severe the concussion is, or if there's any other injuries that he suffered from the accident in the ring. So we'll have to see what happens there. Whether this means the Vaudevillains will be declared the winners on Raw, I don't know. If this will mean that the Vaudevillains will go on to Extreme Rules to face the New Day for the tag titles, I don't know. Maybe that's something we'll get on Raw tonight. We'll have to wait and see. I do know that after this all happened, the air in the arena was completely sucked out. The place was completely dead because people were scared. I mean, people were really worried because if you saw this happen, it was very bad and it was very scary looking. I mean, I know I was worried. The two friends I was watching with, we were sitting here in dead silence because we didn't know if Enzo was going to get back up. We honestly thought something severe had happened, like a severe neck injury, because he hit that thing hard and he went out about as hard as you could go. But up and about, moving around, now left the hospital on his own 2 feet, and even posed for pictures outside. So it looks like he's going to be fine outside of a concussion. So we'll have to see what happens going forward with the question of the tag titles. But like I said, the air was sucked out of the arena, so I don't know if this was where this match was supposed to happen or not. But they bumped it. But next up, we had Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. I mean, of course, these guys have been enemies for 14 years. Actually, I guess they haven't been enemies. They've been friends for 14 years. They've been enemies since they were in NXT together. And this is their first main roster singles pay-per-view match, and it lived up to all the expectations. They put on an absolute clinic. The match was, I mean, really, it was a work of art. In the end, Owens hit Zayn with the pop-up powerbomb and got the clean win. He cut a promo after with Byron Saxton, pretty much bossed Byron Saxton around, which is always funny to see, saying said that he's finally put his feud with Zayn to rest. He's proved that he's a better man, and that he's going to focus and reclaim on the Intercontinental Championship, which that match was next. So Kevin Owens hopped over to the commentary table, which was brilliant because every time Byron Saxton went to talk, he pretty much told him to shut up no matter what he was saying. Miz and Cesaro had a great match, really fantastic, with a lot of close finishes. Miz almost hit him with the skull-crushing finale a couple times. Cesaro went for the swing a few times before actually getting it, and he swung him for a good little while. But where this got interesting is that Sami Zayn returned to ringside and jumped Owens at the commentary table. They brawled on the outside, distracting the ref. So, which was interesting because at the time, Cesaro had Miz in a crossface, and Miz was tapping. Miz was tapping out. Cesaro knocked Zayn and Owens off the apron, and Miz took advantage, rolled Cesaro up with a handful of tights, and retains the championship. After the match, though, Cesaro, Miz, Owens, Zayn, everybody hit their finishers on each other. Owens was the last man standing, and he posed with Miz's Intercontinental Championship. So I'm guessing that this will lead to some sort of fatal four-way. Now, maybe it'll be a ladder match, maybe it'll just be a fatal four-way, but I'm guessing it'll happen. More than likely, will happen at Extreme Rules. Tonight on Raw, I fully expect to get the tag match that we usually get here with Zayn and Cesaro versus Owens and Miz. So we'll have to see what happens there. But I definitely think we should get a Fatal 4-Way, probably at Extreme Rules, which I'm okay with. I think that would be a great little match. I think it'll be a great chance to also take the championship off of Miz without making Miz look like he's the one that got defeated. You could have Zayn get pinned. You could Owens get pinned. Somebody else can get pinned or submitted and give up Miz's championship, and Miz doesn't have to take the loss. Because from what I understand, they're wanting to push Miz. And I'm okay with that. I know a lot of people don't like Miz, but honestly, it doesn't really bother me that much. He doesn't really bug me. I mean, yeah, you can get arrogant and he can kind of be annoying. But honestly, a lot of times he puts on pretty decent matches. So I'm not the worst fan of Miz. I'm not his biggest fan, but I think the guy does great stuff sometimes. Who knows? Next up, we had Dean Ambrose and Chris Jericho. They got a lot of time. They got a lot of the time that we had to make up for the Enzo Amore match getting cut short. And really, to me, it never got clicking along. I think we spent a lot of time on our phones and talking during this one because it just never really got going. In the end, Ambrose hitting with Dirty Deeds got the win over Jericho. And honestly, I'm trying to think back, when was the last time that Dean Ambrose got a win at a pay-per-view? Because I'm not going to count Roadblock. That was a no contest, or whatever you want to call it. When was the last time that Dean Ambrose got a win at a pay-per-view? Wherever you're watching this, if you're watching on Spreaker, you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, comment section below, tell me, when was the last time Dean Ambrose got a win at a pay-per-view? I guess a little bit of trivia, because I honestly don't know when the last time it was. But Dean Ambrose was really in a desperate shape. He needed a win here. He got one finally. Hopefully this will be the end of their feud. It probably won't be, but it should be. Ambrose had a ton of momentum just a few months ago. And after the stagnant match at WrestleMania, and after tonight, even though he got the win, he just kind of feels dead in the water for me. So hopefully they'll kind of push these guys on to their next rivalries, and we'll see where we go from there. Next up, we had the WWE Women's Championship match with Charlotte and Natalya. Rematch from Roadblock, also a rematch from their match back in NXT back in 2014. Of course, Natty had her uncle Bret Hart, who leading up to Payback was in a couple of interviews and a couple of things was pretty clear that he didn't want to be there, but that he was doing it for Natty. It meant a lot to her, and he was going to do it for her, but really deep down he had nothing invested in a reason to be there. We had, of course, on the other side you have Charlotte, you have Ric Flair. Unfortunately, the hubris backfired on her. Charlotte locked on a sharpshooter, and Charles Little H. Robinson called for the bell. So we got the Chicago screw job here. Because apparently WWE cannot resist the fact, or cannot resist the urge to, anytime Bret Hart is around, to remind him of the Montreal screw job where he got locked in the sharpshooter by Shawn Michaels and didn't tap, but lost his title anyway in his hometown of Montreal. So we now have the Chicago screw job. So I don't know where they're going to go with this. Probably a rematch at Extreme Rules, because it's all but pretty much out there that Sasha Banks is going to be Charlotte's next big feud, and they're going to do that around SummerSlam. So we've got some time. I don't know if we'll get maybe some Becky Lynch stuff in there, or maybe somebody else will get a chance, or if we'll go with Natty all the way to SummerSlam. I don't know. But I predict that Charlotte will not lose her title until she loses it to Sasha Banks, hopefully at SummerSlam, if not sooner. For what this means for the Chicago screw job, definitely a rematch at Extreme Rules. But the best part about this whole thing was at the end when Brett and Natty had Rick and Charlotte in the sharpshooters after the match was over, which I think everybody kind of saw coming, because Brett said that he really hoped he got to put Rick in a sharpshooter. Brett is not the great It's not the greatest at keeping planned story. I think kind of quiet. So I think you kind of gave that one away that was going to happen. It was just how it was going to happen. Now, Chicago Screwjob, it was a weird finish. I thought that was kind of weird, and I don't know, I guess unnecessary. Just because you have Bret Hart there doesn't mean you have to do a Screwjob finish. So, who knows. Next up, we had the in-ring segment where Vince McMahon was going to decide on who was going to be controlling Monday Night Raw. Of course, the Chicago crowd wants to chant for their favorite son, CM Punk. Now, I am not going to get off on a tangent here with my thoughts on CM Punk. I did not watch wrestling for about 10 years. I came back in right around SummerSlam 2013 because or 2000, let me see, the SummerSlam leading up to WrestleMania 30. So let's see, WrestleMania 30 was 2014. So yeah, SummerSlam 2013. There we go. The Daniel Bryan versus John Cena, when Daniel Bryan won the title, and then Triple H screwed him over, and Randy Orton cashed in his Money in the Bank and started that whole business. That's when I got back into it. So I really wasn't very clear on who CM Punk was. I had never really seen him before. I wasn't watching, so I didn't really know who he was. As a fan, what I saw from Punk from that time on, I liked. I liked CM Punk. Now, when it came to the whole deal of what happened, Punk didn't like how he was being, I guess, made stagnant. He felt that he was looked over many times when he was the guy and when it was his year. Then there was the whole thing with his health and the staph infection and the concussions and not the improper medical treatment and whatever you want to call it. For whatever reasons, Punk walked out, quit, and then a few months later shows up in UFC, which he hasn't done anything with because he keeps getting hurt in training. But when it comes to the CM Punk chants, I feel that the only place that these are acceptable is in Chicago. Because, and a friend of mine made a good point about this, shout out to Stuart if you're listening, he made a great point last night in that Chicago has every right to do it, because Chicago is a very loyal city. Chicago feels that Punk was screwed out of a lot of opportunities and leading to Punk leaving. They hate Vince McMahon because of how he treated Punk and how the whole Punk thing went down. So they chant for Punk because they feel that they've not gotten any justice for CM Punk. So when Chicago does it, after a few minutes, it's like, all right, guys, really, just stop. Let's move on. You got it out there. You had your moment. Now let it go, okay? Unless you're going to literally chant CM Punk the entire night during the entire event, then don't chant it at all. But when Chicago does it, I don't seem to get mad. When people in Des Moines, Iowa, or Appleton, Wisconsin do it, it makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Like, you're just a fan who won't give up the fact that Punk left. You think that if you keep chanting his name, he's going to show up. He's not Beetlejuice. He's not Candyman. He's not going to come just because you say his name. Okay? You stop. Stop thinking that Punk's just going to show up one day because you've been chanting his name. It's not going to happen. He's going to do at least one match in UFC to see what that's like. Maybe he'll get his ass kicked. I don't know. Maybe he'll get his ass kicked, get knocked out, and wake up and want to come back. Who knows? I have no idea. But do what I like to see CM Punk come back? Absolutely. I would love to see Punk come back to WWE. Will we ever see it happen? Probably not. Probably not. I mean, he convinced his wife to quit. Come on. I just don't think he's coming back, guys. Anyway, moving on. Chicago crowd essentially chanted CM Punk the entire time Vince was talking. Vince, great on-screen persona. You know, he trolled the audience. He let them have their chance. He kind of conducted them like an orchestra. He urged them on to mock. He urged them on to get louder. He mocked them for not cheering loud enough. You know, he played the great heel Mr. McMahon. He brought that back and really played that up great. Told the audience to shut up and show some respect, especially when Stephanie came out and started her talking. And then Shane comes out. Shane, who's just about as bad as The Rock when it comes to pandering, had a great moment with the audience where I'm pretty sure what he's been doing his entire life with puts his hand over Stephanie and everybody boos, puts his hand over his own head and everybody cheers. Pretty sure he was doing that as a kid. Like, who wants Stephanie? Nobody. Who wants me? I think he's been doing that his entire life. This is why, like watching a true sibling rivalry between Shane and Stephanie, which is why I'm glad that Triple H was not out there for this. Triple H stayed in the back, if he was even there. I'm sure he was, but stayed in the back, didn't really do anything with this segment. They let it be all about the sibling rivalry. And of course, Vince comes to the conclusion that both of them will run Monday Night Raw, and they have a choice. They can either figure out a way to coexist and work together, or one of them will just destroy the other, which I still believe is leading to the brand split. I think that's what we're gonna see coming up sometime, hopefully soon, in that one of them will get SmackDown, one of them will get Raw. Probably going to be Shane getting SmackDown, because they'll try to get SmackDown to become less of a B show and kind of become a secondary A show. I think Shane would do a great job with that if he's got a good roster. So we'll have to see what happens. But that leads us to our main event, AJ Styles versus Roman Reigns for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. This match was great. AJ really took Roman to his limit, and Roman, for the most part, hung. Last night, when the whole thing was over, I had to applaud Roman Reigns for actually giving a crap and actually giving everything he had in that match. It's like I say, if you've got a match against AJ Styles, if you're not there to work, don't clock in. AJ is gonna bring everything he's got, and you've got to bring everything you've got to meet him, or else the match doesn't work. So I thought Roman did a great job in holding his own against one of the most, no pun intended, phenomenal wrestlers out there right now. AJ Styles is, if not the best, one of the best professional wrestlers in the world. And Roman Reigns, who a lot of people feel is completely lacking in talent, charisma, it's everything across the board, doesn't deserve to be champion. He held his own in his first true defense of his World Heavyweight Championship. The match had a few moments of you really didn't know what they were doing with things. First, AJ Styles won the match via countout. After Roman was put through the announce table, but Shane McMahon came out and restarted that match with a no contest. Then Reigns hit him with an inadvertent low blow. I think he obviously was just going to hit him in the ribs, and he probably did, but Styles sold it as a low blow. The ref calls for the bell and gives Styles the match via disqualification. So Stephanie comes out, restarts the match via no DQ. So here we go again. We're starting again for the third start. Styles manages to kick out of one of the best Superman punches I've ever seen. Styles went to hit him with a phenomenal forearm, and Reigns hit him with a nice Superman punch coming out of that. It was the first time the Superman punch actually looked like a Superman punch. Reigns hit another one, and the second one made it look goofy. The first one looked awesome because he got Styles in the air The second one, he actually took 2 steps backwards just to get the jump in. It was just like step, and then he kind of did this lame jump Superman punch. It was really stupid. But this sent out what everybody knew was going to happen. Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson come out. They pull Styles out of the ring and get the beat down in the ring, hit him with, I believe, what they're calling the Boot of Doom, which is the little drop kick that they have. Styles then hit the phenomenal forearm, but Reigns manages to get his foot on the rope. Now, this we had to look up, because actually, right now, AJ Styles should be your World Heavyweight Champion, because in a no DQ match, rope breaks don't count. So Roman gets his foot on the rope, and it causes the kick out. It actually shouldn't have counted. AJ should have gotten the 3, because a rope break in a no DQ doesn't exist. So kind of a little bit of a botch and a little bit of a whoopsie there, but whatever, we'll move forward. Finally, Usos come running down. They get on Gallows and Anderson's, kind of even the odds. Reigns tossed Styles out onto the 4 guys on the ring side. Then he hits this big dive, which is one of the coolest things I think Reigns has for a guy his size to be able to do that. Eventually gets hit with another phenomenal forearm. Styles rolled Reigns back in the ring and hits him with a springboard 450, which I thought was great. I thought it was a great little move. He tried for it earlier off the top turnbuckle, but Reigns got his knees up. But he hits it the second time with the springboard 450. Reigns kicks out. Styles misses, goes for another phenomenal forearm, misses, and Reigns hits probably the most, the best looking spear he's ever had. It was the only time his spear actually looked like it actually would be a finisher. So, he hits him with the spear and gets the pinfall to retain his title. Obviously, they want the spear to still look like the end all be all. If you get hit with a spear, you don't kick out. It's just how it goes. It's how Cena's AA used to be back in the day, and even really recently. If Cena hit you with an AA, it didn't matter who you were. It didn't matter if Cena's kicked out of your finisher 3 times. If he hits you with even one AA, you didn't kick out. So that's, I think, what they're going to try and do here with the spear. If he hits you with the spear, it's over. It's done. You don't kick out. And that's just how it's going to be. I think a lot of us were hoping for something to happen here with the Bullet Club. There had been rumors that Finn Balor was going to maybe make his debut, and we thought possibly what I said I thought was going to happen was that Gallows and Anderson would turn on Styles, and would lead to the debut of Finn Balor. And we have Balor, Anderson, and Gallows leading into the new quote-unquote Bullet Club. I'm just call it that in quotations because that's probably not what they're going to call it. I don't know what they're going to call it. I don't know if it'll be the bulletproof thing that Finn was teasing a long time ago. But if this proved anything, it is this. Just because you see something online does not mean that it is true. Finn Balor has been teasing Bulletproof, Balor Club, Bullet Club, Anderson and Gallows, and even his own main roster debut quite often and quite regularly online via Snapchat, via Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all across social media, and even to the point where after his loss to Samoa Joe, he went outside to the bus and told fans, "I'll see you all Monday." And then he cut a promo later that week saying he wasn't going anywhere. So for me, going forward, here's my plan, and I think this is a good plan, and I think a lot of wrestling fans could take a lot of good from this. Stop expecting the Bullet Club. Stop expecting the Balor Club. Stop expecting Finn Balor to debut, and stop expecting Carl and Doc and Luke, or Doc, or whatever you want to call him, to turn on AJ. Stop expecting these things, and hopefully soon enough it will happen. That's what I have to take from this. I'm guilty of it. I had my Balor Club shirt on last night. I put an update on Snapchat, that it was Balor Club for life. That I honestly, I drank the Kool-Aid. I thought Finn was coming out. I thought something was going to happen, but it didn't. And I think a lot of fans left kind of let down because they thought that something was going to go down and we were going to see a big change. But nothing happened. So we closed out the night with a backstage segment with Shane and Stephanie. They agree that Styles and Reigns should meet again at Extreme Rules in a rematch, and that it will be an Extreme Rules match. And that is how the night goes out. Stephanie and Shane make their first decision together as co-GMs of Raw that we will see this match again at Extreme Rules. Now, will that be when Anderson and Gallows turn on AJ? Will that be when Finn Balor debuts? I don't know. Nobody knows. So we'll have to wait and see. Extreme Rules is already shaping up to be a pretty good pay-per-view. I had a feeling a lot of these matches would end in kind of iffy finishes to lead maybe seeing a lot of these same matches are going to happen at Extreme Rules, because Extreme Rules is only 3 weeks away. It's May 22nd, so we only had 3 weeks to build for Extreme Rules, which is not a lot of time. So I think a lot of these matches had to get kind of pushed on to Extreme Rules, and then maybe we'll see some new stuff show up between Raw and SmackDown over the next couple of weeks leading towards Extreme Rules. But that is your Payback recap. Thank you guys for tuning in. However you listen to the show, I have switched over from one provider to another. I am now on Spreaker. If you're listening on Spreaker, thank you for listening. If you're listening on YouTube, thank you for tuning in. Subscribe, like, share the show with all of your friends. I am going to work on getting the show back on iTunes. I had taken it down, but I'm going to work on getting it back up, getting the RSS feed from Spreaker tied over to the Ruffin Wrestling Show on iTunes, so you'll be able to subscribe over there very soon. But thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Peace.